Go ahead.
Welcome into another edition of Pressbox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. And with me, as usual on Mondays, is Luke Jackson, back from vacation, the managing editor of Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. And as it says right below him, the old left-hander, Ross Grimsley.
Yes, it is.
And we're here and we got a lot to talk about. Why don't we save the best for last, which is the Orioles sweep of the Braves? And why don't we start off with kind of the biggest story in baseball right now? And no, I'm not talking about the All-Star voting. I'm talking about the fact that the Washington Nationals have cleaned house and replaced general manager Mike Rizzo with Mike DiBartolo, and assistant general manager. He's listed as interim, but I'd say that he could very well could be the favorite to maintain that job. And manager Davey Martinez has been replaced on an interim basis by Miguel Cairo. Ross, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, they've struggled since what 2019. They hadn't been back to the playoffs or World Series, and that's they just hadn't played very well, and they hadn't developed.
They haven't played very well, Ross. But you got to be honest. Any team that lets Bryce Harper walk away, gets a draft pick. They let Anthony Rendon walk away, and luckily they didn't sign him. But that was a lot of talent. And then they traded Trey Turner in that deal. And I get getting rid of Max Scherzer, but I don't get getting rid of Trey Turner at the time. And got very little back in that trade that's panned out. But go ahead.
That's true. They traded away some people and didn't get a whole lot in return, and they haven't developed anybody in their minor league system. And I think that was
other than the three players that they got in the Soto deal.
Exactly right. And but as far as developing anybody else into their own people, they really haven't done that. And when that happens, then some guys, they start looking over their shoulder and going, "Wait a minute." And they made the decision to move on. I mean, that's the fourth manager has been let go this year, and all because of the team struggling. And you look with the O's with that situation, and they really haven't developed a whole lot of people in the minor leagues, and what they have is in the big leagues. So, surprised? Not really, But hey, you're not producing, you're not winning games. Hey, they're going to get somebody else.
Luke, your thoughts on the Washington Nationals rearranging the furniture there?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't have been as surprised if Davey was fired a couple weeks ago and if Mike was fired about a month from now after the draft and after the deadline. But this was clearly going to happen at some point. Apparently, Davey and Mike had an option for 2026 that needed to be picked up by some point this month, and that wasn't going to happen apparently. And it had been obvious for a while that Davey was probably in his last year. It hasn't gone well for that team over the past several.
It's been pretty obvious that he wasn't going to stay, but Rizzo's been there a long time, and the timing of it a week before the draft, did it come down to some arguments over draft that they didn't, the Lerner family didn't?
I don't know about all of that. I'm guessing that the Nationals got embarrassed at home during 4th of July weekend, and the Lerner family decided that was enough. So I think this is their 5th straight year, or really 6th straight year if you include the 2020 season, of not playing good baseball.
Yeah.
And it's no surprise that it ended this way, considering, as you guys mentioned, the 3 good players they have were drafted and mostly developed by the Padres. And if you look at Mike's draft record over the past decade, it's not great. It's not great. Not a lot of first-round hits in there, and that's been a big issue. Stan, you wrote today about how all their big names from that great era of baseball in D.C. All left between, I think, 18 and 22, and there was nobody left to replace them. There was just
one left. It was Strasburg.
Yeah, right. If you remember Carter Keyboom, there was a lot
Yeah,
of high
he
hopes for
was like
him.
supposed to be the next
He
big
didn't pan
thing.
out, and the other big one that didn't pan out was Victor Robles. If
Yeah,
you recall, he was supposed to be a big time two-way center fielder type, just never hit.
yeah,
So, and that's really been the story of the past several years that they just haven't. And if it weren't for that Soto deal, they would basically be the Rockies.
yeah, yeah. It's fascinating. But the timing of it a week before the draft, I find
Definitely odd. Definitely odd.
very, very odd, very odd. And I think it speaks to, while they may look for a director of baseball operations like a Dave Dombrowski to head everything, it speaks to a lot of trust to me in this Mike DeBartolo, who I don't know at all.
Yeah, and we don't know how deep into their draft preparations they were for that number one pick. I assume they were pretty deep, but the preparation goes really until the final bell because you don't know the price tags for these guys until very late in the process.
Yeah.
And you have like a draft pool, and because they have the number one pick, they have a pretty big draft pool. And so right now they're trying to figure out, well, if we take this guy number one, how much money will we have left over these other guys with these other picks? And that takes that's a puzzle and that takes some time to figure out. And you don't really put the pieces in place for that puzzle until very late in the process because the agents don't let you know what the price tag for their client is going to be until very, very late.
Ross, the Nationals announced today that Miguel Cairo is the interim manager. And I said, well, that's typical. They took, a guy there, but he was the bench coach. I'd forgotten he'd been a bench coach for Tony La Russa when La Russa took over the White Sox a couple of years ago. Do you think he's got any shot at retaining a job beyond this year?
I mean, that depends on who's out there
Yeah,
and looking. But usually the bench coach is the guy that gets the job in most cases. He knows the personnel and what coaches are remaining in the front office somewhat. So yeah, it's that isn't surprising. But as far as looking for who is the next guy, hey, if they take off and play well, and the team it works together, who knows? I mean, it's all who the general manager at the time likes and who he knows, and I mean, you just can't tell. You just can't really tell.
Luke, slipping over to the Orioles for a second, and I'll remind everybody that we're brought to you by the Costas Inn, now with two great locations. The old location on North Point Boulevard, 4100 North Point Boulevard. The new location at the Timonium Fairgrounds upstairs where the OTB is in the grandstand of Timonium Racecourse, right on York Road. Uh,
Very
we'll
nice
talk
place. Very very nice.
We'll talk more about that at the midway point. But Luke, sliding over to the Orioles, just a quick observation from both of you, but I'll get from you first, Luke. Do you think Mansolino has comported himself in a way that he's turning into a candidate for the job, or is it too soon to know?
Probably too soon to know, but I think he's done as well as he possibly could given the circumstances. I believe they're 25 and 21 under Manzolino, which is roughly about the pace that you would have expected from this team at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
Obviously, had the nightmare start, and then it got even worse in that first 4, 5, 6 days under Manzolino, and then it started to get better. And when did it start to get better, Stan? When they started to get healthier. That's really what triggered the better play was that started to get a lot of their best players back in the lineup. That helps. That helps to have Jordan Westburg. It helps to have Colton Cowser.
yeah,
And so, but uh, I think Manzolino has done very well for himself, and I'm sure that if they continue to play well, he will be a candidate at the end of the year.
yeah. Ross, your thoughts on
Oh,
Mansolino so far?
that sounds really I think the team is they respect him. They respect him. They listen to him. I think at the very beginning he said laid down some of the things that he planned on doing, talking to the players, and really I think they played very well for the situation they're in with all the injuries, guys coming back. Catching situation is catastrophe, and that's nice. I was looking at, they've thrown 16% of the runners out. Now that's a third worst in baseball. But I think he has really done a really good job. And hey, who knows? He may, depending on where they go from here on out. I mean, he could be somebody they want to stick with.
You know, that thing you mentioned about the catching, I thought you were talking about the 5 injured catchers in like a little over 2 weeks.
Well, that
Um,
too.
yeah, I'd just like to get a catcher that can catch the ball. That forget
Exactly.
the throwing out the runner. That's going to happen. But geez, whiz, Sanchez is really saddening.
And you knew that, Stan. You knew.
Well,
I
you
don't know if you
knew
knew
that,
how bad he.
but they tried to spin it that he's improved over time as a
Right.
catcher.
Yeah. That's a nice. They were hoping to get him some home runs over that short right field or left field fence.
Yeah, and he has since
He
he
has
came
a
back.
few, yeah.
Yeah, he's hit
But
a few.
he just drive in more than you let in. That's the
Yeah.
big thing.
Before we do touch on the Orioles, let's take a look at the All-Star voting and how we feel about that. Me personally, I guess the older I've gotten, the more cynical I've gotten about the All-Star game. Um, I get so aggravated by the club getting involved, and every club does it. So the Orioles aren't alone in it. It's an industry thing to get more data by having you sign in to MLB and vote, and they get your data and all that. But I really don't really care that much who makes the All-Star team. Ross, your thoughts on who did make the All-Star team? I think it sort of says who the Orioles are, that they don't have a lot of all-star representation this year.
Absolutely right. You know, that's, I mean, you're not, you're last place. You know, you're not going to get a lot of guys on the All-Star team. So hey, that's not surprising one bit. You know, the All-Star, and with Holiday, I'll say this. Well, I'll say what Sparky told me one time. I should have made the All-Star team in, I think, 74 or 73 or 72. And he goes, you got plenty of time to make it. Well, I go, wait a minute, that's not the point here. And that's kind of what you can tell Holly. You got plenty of time to make it. But no, I played well enough and I don't know his numbers. Hey, you know, he's among second baseman. He could be and he could still be on the All-Star team. Who knows?
Luke pointed out something to me because I wrote it last night, and I did in the original copy, Luke, for full disclosure purposes of full disclosure, I did give you credit. You took it out. But Luke pointed out to me, Gunnar, if Payne is not able to make it, he's on the IL right now as a reserve, the shortstop from Houston. That Gunnar is really more deserving, even though our eyes have been focused on Holiday because of how improved he is. But Gunner's WAR is a lot more significant. His on base is much more respectable. I think Oriole fans with Holiday should just be happy that he's now presenting himself as a serious major league player that's
Really?
going to get better over that.
And he might build a team around him now.
It's
You know,
quite possible.
He is he's really improved a lot, done a lot of good things. Yeah, the All-Star game it used to be obviously different.
It used to feel like it really meant something.
Absolutely. I mean, and you got the players wanted to go. They wanted to beat the American League, the National League, whoever he was with. And it was a big thing. It was special. It's not to me now. It's not that big a thing. And over the years, I think guys have, I got a back tweak. I don't know if I can make it or whatever. And I'm going, come on. People want to see the best players. And they want to see the best players bust their ass on the field, and do the thing. It's just not the same for some reason.
I always thought that it should just be like 26-man roster, like it normally is, like in a normal game. So 26-man roster for the American League, 26-man roster for the National League. Have the fans vote for the starters because the fans seem to do the best job of the all the parties who are involved in picking out the teams. And just like, let's have a regular baseball game. But that's just me.
I think the players ought to do it. The players ought to pick the players.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I
That
don't
would
think
be,
the fans still do such a
oh
good
heavens
job.
no, they're
I
gonna.
mean, look, let's be honest. The Detroit Tigers, it almost smacks of the Cincinnati Reds in 1957 when they stuffed the ballot. How does Javier Baez make the All-Star team as a starting outfielder? I mean,
No,
that to me is a joke.
no, that's like Soto being a Gold Glove right fielder.
Right. Okay. Okay. Um, Luke, does I guess you're too young to really feel this, so actually I'll toss it to Ross. The fact that we now play so many games against the National League all during the year, and the players are exposed to us so much, it's also there used to be a mystique if you lived in an American League city. Oh, we get to see Hank Aaron and Roberto Clemente and Willie Mays, Juan Marichal, Sandy Koufax. Now we see them all the time.
And that takes away from the All-Star. It takes away from the World Series too. I mean,
Yeah,
it was always something to see. A guy from the American League. You never saw him. You saw him in spring training, but that added, I think, a lot to it. A lot more of the unknown. You see guys, you hear about them, and even as a player, that was something. You read about. Hey, every Sunday you get the sport page out and you look at the hitters and the
the
pitchers.
stats. Yeah,
I still have some myself in my collection of crap, but it meant something, and it's a little bit different now because everybody sees everybody. But it's all about this right here.
yeah. All right. Speaking of that, right there, I'm going to ask you to put your thumbs out there.
They're still working.
Are they working, Luke? Are yours?
They're working now.
They're working
They're
now.
working.
All right. That's 6 thumbs up if you count them. And I'll give an extra thumb to Ross Grimsley,
Absolutely.
who's been through so much lately. So we got 7 thumbs up for the Costas Inn. Ross, did you eat at both places on this
No,
trip in? Just the new
just with the
location.
one on Timonium.
Tell our listeners and viewers what you thought of it.
I went over. Me and my wife and my daughter and her boyfriend went over there, and Nick was there, and it was fantastic. We had a great time talking.
Did you pick up the check?
Of course, I did.
Okay. All right. Daddy picked up the check. All right.
I overtipped, which you should because our waitress was fantastic, and all of them are. But we had a great time. Had the crab cakes. They were outstanding as
What'd
usual.
you think of the new room? What'd you think
The
of the
room
new
was great, and they have an outside area
Yep.
that you can do. And I asked him about the crabs, and he goes, "There's just no way we can do it." And there isn't. But all the food is fantastic.
Yep.
And I didn't get a chance to get crabs. We didn't make it because I was injured, so we couldn't get out to do that. But anyway, it fantastic. The place looks great.
Was it easy to get? Was it easy for you? Did you know where it was? And was it
I
easy for you to
followed the signs. I followed
All
the
right.
signs and the people. It just went
All right. That's
second floor right there.
and that's all you have to do is
Yep.
follow the signs there. There's a bunch of them all over the place. Once you turn into the fairgrounds, the Costas Inn, they're open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Now, 2 great locations, 4100 North Point Boulevard, where you can still get the crabs, 410-477-1975, and the new location at the grandstand at the OTB, just inside the OTB at Timonium Fairgrounds. All right. Now back to the Orioles. The Orioles gave us a little bit of hope this weekend. And to me, it really centered around the starting pitching. Charlie Morton pitched a nice game, and Trevor Rogers pitched a really nice game. And I won't say that Dean Kramer pitched a bad game, but I thought, Luke, the starting pitching was the key to this weekend sweep, albeit against a struggling Atlanta team.
Yeah, Dean's allowed a bad one because he had been pitching really, really well since about I would say, the middle of May. So, and then Trevor Rogers, as you mentioned, velocity's back up. Didn't have his best velocity yesterday, but he was commanding it really well. Was throwing a really good sweeper, throwing a really good changeup. Uh, he's looked really good the past few starts, dating back to that 8 innings of shutout ball against the Texas Rangers in that sweltering heat in Baltimore. And then you mentioned Charlie Morton, who's probably been the Orioles' best starter since he rejoined the rotation, right? That curveball looks awesome. And I, I'm telling you, like, contenders are going to call on Charlie Morton. They're not going to care what his ERA is for the season. They're not going to
Right.
care what he did in April. They're going to care about what his stuff looks like right now.
The swing
And
and miss.
yes, the swing and miss is what they're going to be interested in. Now, I don't know how much the Orioles could possibly get for him because it has been a rocky road for him, and he's making a lot of money. So, maybe the Orioles can pitch in terms of taking care of some of the salary and get a little better prospect back in return. But yes, to your point, Rogers has pitched well, Morton has pitched well, and that has helped offset some struggles for Tomoyuki Sugano, who will go again on Wednesday. And the Orioles hope that he gets back on track. Brandon Young has been and then Zach Eflin, prior to going down, had been pitching really poorly. So
Yeah.
it's been a little bit of an up and down deal for the starting pitching, but you could see, I mean, you could tell that when they get a good start, they've got a pretty good chance to win.
It's really the reason that the club has struggled with consistency
Hmm.
this year.
Hmm.
Your chances to win on any given night are only as good as your starting
No,
pitcher.
no, you're
And
absolutely right. So they
yeah,
had a really good series in Atlanta. They took three, and now they have Young and Sugano, who have
yeah,
struggled of late. And if they want to keep it going, those guys have to pitch well,
yeah.
and that's been a struggle for those guys. Now, I will say that Young's stuff looks a little better this time around than the first time before he went on the IL. His velocity has ticked up a little bit. That's good. And it was a tough assignment facing the Rangers for a second straight start. So we'll see what he has in store tomorrow against the Mets, who came to life this weekend against the Yankees.
Yeah, as I wrote in that column last night, Luke, about the Mets, Soto has been red hot. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
he's over the last like 38 games, he's
yeah.
got a like a 1.2 OPS.
Oh yeah, he was probably the best hitter in the National League in the month of June.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, and the rest of that offense was struggling some, but not him. And so, and you look at his season line now, it's right in line with what he normally does. Getting on base a ton, hitting for power, and basically being the guy that the Mets paid all that money.
Does Morton Luke have any control over with his
No,
tenure in the league? He
no,
has
he's
no
not.
control.
He's not
He
a
has a
10-5
complete
guy.
no trade.
Yeah, he has no ability to direct where he goes.
Okay. Seems like a perfect guy for the Cubs to pick up because the Cubs,
What happens if the O's start moving? I know that they're 11 and a half games back. I get
Well,
that.
what do you think they have to do on this homestand? It's a 6-game homestand. Where do you want to be by the All-Star break if you want
they
to
got to
start
go for they got to go 4-2
at a
Yeah.
minimum?
at a minimum, and it's hard with Young and Sagano.
Yeah, Young's
That
going
you
to get two
think,
starts on this homestand.
yeah, that's tough. That's very tough because
And on the back end of this homestand, you get a Marlins team that's playing a lot better of late.
they're playing a lot better. Yeah, actually, in front of the Orioles in the standings.
Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
the second half of the season is going to be interesting. I mean, that they play some pretty good teams. The Mets, they play Philly, they play the Giants, they play the. I think they play the Dodgers. I know they play
Yeah,
Houston.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They play Houston
they
seven
play the
times.
Yeah,
Rockies, and I think they have one more series against the White Sox too.
Yeah, they do
yeah,
have Houston 7 times. You look at the opponents that they've played so far. What's really killing them is the 0-6 mark against Minnesota,
right.
1-5 mark against DC.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's a 1-5 mark against Detroit. That's what's really killing them.
yeah.
So that's 2 and
But they,
16.
Yeah,
they play teams over 500 about the same as they do the teams under 500.
yeah, yeah.
Which is you kind of scratch your head there. But yeah, I
Now,
mean
I will say, when they played Minnesota, I mean, that could have been anybody with the way they were spiraling, heading toward that Hyde firing. I mean, that could have been a AAA team for all I care. You know what I mean? It like it, that it that could have just been happened to be the team they were playing. You know what I
That
mean?
was a very depressing
Time.
couple
Yeah.
series. No question about it. I look around at these other teams. The Nats possibly will be looking for a manager. The Orioles could be looking for a manager. Uh, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh will probably stick with who they hired in the interim.
Right.
I don't know whether the Rockies will look for a manager, but Kansas City easily could make a managerial change. Matt Quattaro has kind of fizzled there.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think he'll make it through the season, but I could see Snicker retiring at the end of the year.
yes, I agree. I agree with you
Is he
there.
going to make it to the end of the year?
I think he
I think
will.
Snitker will
He's
make
so
it.
well respected in Atlanta that
Oh
I
yeah,
think
no, I
he'll,
know.
yeah, yeah.
He's only been there 100 years. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, and that Atlanta lineup, I was telling this to Stan, the best way I could put it is that lineup is full of guys who are supposed to be good and they're
yeah,
not.
right.
And it's amazing. And like that's the danger of locking up so much of your team that now you don't have any flexibility and you're kind of all in with this group all the time.
I mean, I'll tell you who, to me, the worst at bat on that team is Michael Harris.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like Mullins when Mullins is really going bad.
But he looks like that all the time.
Yeah, he looks like it all the
That's
I
not
mean,
good.
that's not
time.
great. And then I can't believe the Albies contract is going to end with them trying to find a taker at the deadline. Like that looked like the one of the biggest team friendly deals in like baseball history. It like they're going to have to decline the option and pay him 4 million to go away. And the other deal that's kind of looks not great right now is that Austin Riley deal. They paid him a lot of money, and it's not great. He's not a very good defender at third. It's a lot of swing and miss. And the rest of the contracts look fine. So like Acuna, that's a great deal. Olson, that's a good deal. Strider's a good deal. Murphy's a good deal. But the rest of them,
Tell you
that's
who
the
was
nature.
impressive to me this weekend, and I'd never heard of him, is Drake Baldwin.
Oh, he's a good ball player. And
Good.
I wouldn't be surprised, Stan. That's actually one of the few places they have some flexibility. They could
They
trade one of their
trade.
catchers
They could
for
trade
help
Murphy.
elsewhere.
They're not
Yeah,
going to trade Baldwin.
I don't think so. But they could easily trade that Murphy deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Guys, that's going to do it for this edition of Press Box Live with you guys. Are we back? Are we taking All-Star Week off, or what do you want to do? Or we'll talk about it.
I mean, we could do a little something.
Let's do
Ross could
something
talk
next.
about his All-Star memories. You went to an All-Star game once, Ross.
Yes, I did.
And
We talked about his
and
memories from that game. What year did you go?
78.
Okay. So we can
with
talk
the
about
Orioles.
Me and Steve Rogers. Yeah.
Oh, with Montreal.
Yeah, yeah.
You never made it as an Oriole.
No, no, no. I was close with the Reds, but Sparky goes, "You got plenty of time."
You got
Did
plenty
you
of
Really?
time. Yeah.
Did you
Really?
throw in that All-Star game or were you
No,
actually
but what I did, I met Mike Flanagan at the mound after the game, and we high fived each other.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, well, that was good. We had a great time. I mean, it was. I tell you, well, I'll talk about it next week.
Yeah,
all right. That sounds good.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll get together next Monday, day before the All-Star game. All right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. For Luke Jackson, Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan Charles. We appreciate your paying attention to us right here on PressBoxOnline.com. Bye for now.